Well, hello there, and welcome to the 8th Night of the Movies podcast, where I talk movies, TV, and all things I want about half an hour to an hour once or twice a week. And today I'm flying solo, as unfortunately this is quite busy today, so I'm flying solo as I talk James Cameron, my experience watching the first Avatar on the big screen for the first time, and also my anticipation for the Avatar sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water, which is of course coming out this Christmas. But before I do all that, I should also reiterate, as I do at the start of every podcast I do, that if you're listening to this podcast on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners, then you can also watch it visually on my YouTube channel with the same name, Night of the Movies, and also if you are watching on YouTube, hello there to people who watch this on YouTube, but you just don't have the time to watch the full podcast on YouTube, then you can listen on Spotify at the Night of the Movies podcast channel. And please feel free to do so, by the way, because we don't have that many listeners on Spotify, which is a bit unfortunate because, I put a lot of time and effort into these podcasts, so it is much appreciated when people do listen to them on Spotify, or even just watch them on YouTube. But anyway, likewise, if you do enjoy the podcast, then do subscribe, come back for more, and leave feedback on Spotify if you are listening to this on Spotify. then I know what to work on. And also, if you do like the podcast and you're watching on YouTube, please do comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the topics I discuss in these podcasts, and also a topic you perhaps want me to discuss in the podcast in the near distant future, and also whether you enjoy these types of videos. And of course, please do feel free to like and subscribe down below if you're watching this on YouTube as well. Hello again to people who watch this on YouTube. Do a little wave there for podcast listeners. Anyway, as already mentioned in today's podcast, I'll be discussing James Cameron and the Avatar films, including the one which is coming out very soon. But just before I do, I'm going to quickly say that I am very tired today, so I'm putting all my energy into this podcast, and I might just make the same point about 5 times. I might not even, speak in full sentences. I know I've already done that a couple of times in the podcast already, but I'm very, very tired, and I've had a long couple of days. I'm recording this podcast on Saturday, and I had a long day on Thursday, I had a long day on Friday, and I've had a long day so far today, so I'm feeling very tired right now. In fact, I'm kind of shattered, but at the same time though, I'm doing this podcast just for you guys watching and just for you guys listening. So yeah, I'm putting all my energy into the podcast, but I don't know how it's going to turn out. And also, hopefully the podcast doesn't go on for too long, because I've got things I need to be getting on with. Honestly, I am so busy right now. It's kind of a miracle that I managed to have Lewis on the past, good few podcasts, because our schedules are both so jam-packed right now that, yeah, getting him on the podcast for the past couple of weeks was great, because I just didn't know if he would be able to. But that was wonderful. But nevertheless, I am flying solo today, and do bear with me because, yeah, it's been a long couple of days. But anyway, like I said before, I'm talking about James Cameron and the Avatar films, which of course James Cameron directed. See what I did there? But anyway, yeah, like I said before, been a long couple of days. Okay, let's talk about James Cameron to start off with. So, because James Cameron has of course directed Avatar 2, aka Avatar: The Way of Water, which is coming out this Christmas, I went back to his, early filmography over the past couple of weeks, because I like to, familiarise myself with a director, a high-profile director, who has a new film coming out in cinemas in the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months, things like that. Like recently, I watched Fruitvale Station for the first time because it was directed by Ryan Coogler, and obviously Ryan Coogler has a new film coming out, which you might have heard of it, might not. It's called Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. But yes, so I've been watching a couple of Ryan Coogler's previous movies, so I can start to see his sort of directional style when I go watch Black Panther 2, and kind of doing that with James Cameron as well. In fact, that's what I've done with James Cameron. I've gone back and I watched some of his previous movies, so I understand more of his directional style when I come to watch Avatar 2, aka Avatar: The Way of Water, which comes out this Christmas. So I'm going to quickly talk about my opinion. Well, I say quickly, it might go on a bit too long, but I'm going to talk about my opinion on the previous James Cameron films that I saw the past couple of weeks. Like, I'm going to go on about these films all from like the Terminator, which came out in 1984, then I'm going to talk about Aliens, which came out in 1986, and The Abyss, which came out in 1989, then T2 Judgment Day, aka Terminator 2, which came out in 1991, then True Lies, which came out in 1994, then Titanic, which came out in 1997, And then Avatar, James Cameron's latest movie, which came out in 2009. His latest movie as I'm doing this podcast. If you're listening to this podcast, post December the 16th, 2022, then his latest movie will actually be Avatar 2. But as of now, as of October the 8th, as I'm recording this podcast, his latest movie is the first Avatar. Honestly, the thing is with James Cameron is that he does not make a bad movie. Like, I don't understand people who bet against James Cameron. They've done it before in the past, and it's just resulted badly for those people who betted against him. Even to the point that, loads of people were betting against him when before the first Titanic was coming out. Everyone thought it was going to be a bomb at the box office. And then it ended up winning 11 Oscars at the Academy Awards that year. You know what I mean? Just don't bet against James Cameron. I've seen a lot of people doing that with Avatar 2, and I'm kind of like, why though? Like, I feel it's going to be a big commercial hit and also a big critical hit. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it'll be like the worst film of the year. But don't bet against James Cameron. And here's why. Let's look back at one of his first movies. Not his first movie. I think his first movie was prior to The Spawning, which I haven't seen. Although, I did look at before this podcast, and apparently it has a whopping 6% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 3.7 out of 10 rating on IMDb. Pardon me there. And you should never really trust reviewers' sites. I never really do anyway. But at the same time though, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't look like Piranha 2's any good. And this was kind of his first big budget movie that I'm going to talk about now. And that's of course The Terminator, which came out in 1984. Just checking out some recording there, which came out in 1984. And honestly, I've got to admit, I rewatched The Terminator about a week ago now, and I mean, the first time I saw it a couple of years ago, because my mates were watching it. I thought, actually, I'll check it out, see what it's like. And I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was brilliant, I thought it was okay. And then I rewatched it a week ago, because I wanted to rewatch the Terminator films again, because I knew I was going to watch Avatar in the cinema. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do a podcast on James Cameron. Let's watch his movies, at least the ones I can find quite easily. And yeah, I watched The Terminator because I already had it on DVD. And when I was rewatching it, you know what? When I was rewatching it last week, should I say, I thought it was a lot better than I first watched it. I had a lot more fun with it. I still don't love it, and I don't think it's brilliant, but it has got a lot of great moments in there, surprisingly though. Like that scene where, Arnold Schwarzenegger's the Terminator is looking in the mirror and he's taking, I think he's taking, his eye out. And literally you see all the robotics behind, all the robotic stuff underneath his skin. That scene is done fantastically. Like, honestly, I'm watching that and I go, wow, because, every film is a product of their time. Even so, that scene might be a bit dated to say today's audiences. When you're watching, you have to imagine watching that in 1984, watching that scene going, oh my god, look at the special effects going on there. And also, even though the dialogue is a bit corny for today's standards, it's still got a lot of classic lines in there, like, of course, I'll be back. And, like, what's his face saying to Sarah Connor, I forgot the guy's name is, but the one that Sarah Connor falls in love with in the first Terminator film, saying, the fate of the world land in your son's hand, stands in your son's hand. It's something like that. Honestly, my brain is all over the place today. I'm probably not remembering the line well whatsoever. But there are a lot of, corny lines of dialogue in there, which are memorable now, which are kind of ingrained into pop culture, but at the same time, though, and particularly brilliantly written lines of dialogue, I've got to admit. And it just, yeah, I don't find it quite as exciting as some other James Cameron films, which I'll discuss very shortly. But the first Terminator is good fun. It's good fun. And I do think it actually makes Terminator 2 a lot better, which of course I'll be talking about in a couple of minutes' time. But then after the Terminator, But then after The Terminator came out in 1984, James Cameron went on to make Aliens in 1986, which I honestly think is one of the best sequels of all time. I've already spoken about Aliens quite a bit on the YouTube channel. On this YouTube channel, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're on Spotify, I've talked about Aliens quite a lot on my YouTube channel already, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. But, spoiler alert, I love it. It's absolutely fantastic. It's incredible even, because the thing is about me with the Alien franchise, I don't love the first Alien film. I think it's good, I think it's got a lot of great ideas in there, I just don't love it overall. But I do love Aliens. I love Aliens. I love the sequel because the thing which makes Aliens so brilliant is that you know how evil the aliens can be. You know how scary and terrifying the aliens are. So when you see these cocky group of like military going in to kill all the aliens and aliens, and they're like, we're going to easily kill them and stuff like that. They're all being really cocky and egotistical about it. You know how difficult it's going to be, though. And they're watching Sigourney Weaver return as Ripley from the first Alien, coming back to face off them again. And it's just, it makes it so much more exciting. And I think the second half of Aliens is, honestly, just so riveting and thrilling and just... yeah, it makes it into one of the best action movies of all time. Like, the first Terminator, I didn't say, or did I say? I can't even remember now. But the first Terminator, I think, is a good 80s action film. I put it in the same boat as, like, Predator, and, you know, I was about to say Commando again, but I don't think Commando's particularly that good. But anyway, yeah, you get the point. I think it's a good 80s action movie. The Aliens, which also came out in the 80s, it came out in 1986, like I've already said, I think Aliens is simply one of the best action movies ever made. I honestly think it's so good because you've got all that build up in the first half, and the second half is just balls to the wall action and all this really exciting narrative, and it's just honestly the way things play out, and then seeing, you know, Ripley facing off against the mother alien towards the end. Spoiler here, because you have watched it. If you haven't watched it, it's on Disney Plus, and I highly recommend it. And, you know, I'm not really giving anything away. The movie came out in 1986. You've had plenty of time to see it. But, like, when you watch Ripley face up against the mother alien, and you just, like, you see the mother alien about to get nuked, which is the young girl which Ripley looks after for most of the film. And then Ripley's like, get away from her, you bitch. It's just absolutely fantastic. It's like mother versus mother. Because on the poster of Aliens is, you know, Ripley holding Newt, and then the big villain in Aliens is the mother alien. And I love that I get to see more aliens in that movie as well, because from what I can remember, and I haven't seen Alien in a very long time, well, it feels like a very long time anyway, but from what I can remember, Alien only has the one alien, hence the name of the movie, Alien. But Aliens has more aliens, hence the name of the film, Aliens. So I love the fact that we get to see loads more aliens. And it is still scary. In fact, it's even scarier than the first one, in my opinion. Especially with that sequence in the science lab where Ripley and New are being, you know, chased around by these little hand-like crawling aliens. And it's just, oh god, just thinking about it now, oof, it's making me shiver a little bit. But you get the point I'm making. Honestly, Aliens is just a terrific movie. I love its pieces. It's one of my favourite sequels of all time. In fact, it's one of the best sequels of all time. I'd probably put it in the same boat as Godfather Part 2, Empire Strikes Back, Indiana Jones' Last Crusade, specifically for me. But you get the point I'm making. I think it's just up there. It's one of the best sequels of all time. I love it so much. And it's unfortunate that, you know, the Alien franchise went massively downhill after with Alien 3. Like, I haven't seen any of the Alien prequels. I haven't seen Prometheus or Alien Covenant, but I have seen, you know, the first 4 Alien films. I've seen Alien, Aliens, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection, aka Alien 4. And Alien 3 is perhaps one of the biggest slaps in, you know, the audience faces in movie history ever. Like, I won't give anything away. Or should I give anything away? I'm not going to give anything away. No, I'm not going to go into detail. But the beginning of Alien 3 completely ruins the end of Aliens. Like, completely ruins it. Like, Aliens has a perfect ending with, like, Newt saying to Ripley, can I dream tonight? Or something like that. I don't remember seeing that well because my head's really, really lightheaded today. I'm really dizzy. But yeah, there's this perfect ending to Aliens. And then you get to Alien 3, and that perfect ending is completely discarded. And Alien 3 is an okay film within itself. It's just a really bad sequel to Aliens. That's his problem. It's a really bad sequel to Aliens. And it just infuriates me the more I think about that movie. And quite frankly, I didn't hate Alien Resurrection, aka Alien 4. But I just don't remember anything about it. I don't remember anything from the movie. I don't remember hating it. I remember one moment, which was towards the end of the film, which I think, not really a spoiler, but you see Ripley, you know, the main character in the main 4 Alien films, hugging the alien. I remember that. But yes, things about Alien Resurrection, I don't remember anything from it, really, whatsoever. I just remember watching and thinking, this is just a baffling mess. And so much of a mess that yeah, can't remember anything from it, really. And Alien 3 is just, it's just offensive, that's what it is. But Aliens is one of the best sequels of all time. If you haven't watched the Alien films, just watch the first two, ignore the others. And the second one is directed by James Cameron, and he did such an amazing job with it. He made one of the best sequels of all time, and in my opinion, a sequel which is miles better than the original. Like I said before, I liked the first Alien, but I don't love it. I've just got to admit. But anyway, after he made Aliens, he went on to make The Abyss in 1989. And I only watched The Abyss for the first time about a week ago now. And when I sat down to watch it, I was a bit like, 2 hours and a half, get through. I think I had a long day by that point. I keep having a lot of long days right now. But at the same time though, I had a very long day by that point. But I thought, I'll stick on The Abyss. James Cameron should be quite good. But the thing is though, I was making the mistake of betting against James Cameron, which you should never ever do. Because I sat down to watch The Abyss and when I was checking that the microphone or camera was working. Just a second there, so sorry about that. But still, nonetheless, yes, I sat down to watch The Abyss. And I didn't know if it was going to be any good. I'm going to be completely honest. In fact, I was kind of like, here we go. About 10 minutes in, I was captivated by the film. I was on board with what was happening. No pun intended there. Honestly, The Abyss is fantastic. Even though it's got an okay ending, it's such a good film. Like, if you take out the last 5 minutes, the rest of the film is just amazing, in my opinion. I love the fact that the main villain of The Abyss is the underwater ocean. It's the sea. That's the main villain of The Abyss. There's aliens in The Abyss as well, which I won't get into in case you haven't seen the movie. But not to go into too much detail, they're not really the main villains. I love The Abyss because it really shows you the horrors of going underwater, the horrors of being undersea, and that far undersea as well. Honestly, this sea's cruiser goes like the bottom of the ocean. It's terrifying, but also so exciting to watch and so thrilling. And apparently the film was hell to make. Like, the crew got all really angry with each other because James Cameron's a perfectionist and he was doing take after take after take. And also the filming underwater and a lot of things went wrong. And apparently like Ed Harris in the film and he almost drowned quite a few times. And, James Cameron decided to shoot the film in this like abandoned power plant in this like container, which is like this huge container. I can't remember how big it was. It was like this huge container, like the size of a school. And like, he filled it with water and he got the cast to go and then it just, oh god, it sounded like hell. The one who plays the main female character in that movie, I forgot what her name is now off the top of my head, but she was also from The Colour of Money, and she's also from Scarface as well. She said that it was hell to make and she stormed off set as well. And like, none of the main stars of the film will ever talk about it. Ed Harris never talks about his movie. And again, I forgot the name of the actress, but the main female character, the one who played the main female character in the movie, she never speaks about it as well. It's just, apparently, it was so hard to make. But I think the end result, although not James Cameron's best movie, is a remarkable piece of filmmaking. And I love the Alan Silvestri score as well for that film. And that's one thing I forgot to mention of Aliens. Oh, the James Horner score. I haven't got it noted down here on my laptop. The James Horner score for Aliens is terrific, by the way. Side note, back to Aliens quickly, just a little couple of seconds. Yes, this James Horner score for Aliens is so amazing. I think it's one of the most underrated scores of all time for any movie. Oh, it's so good. And every time I listen to it, I feel excited. It's just such a suspenseful piece of music. It's a suspenseful score within itself, and it's just, God, it's so brilliant. Yeah, I love the James Horner score for Aliens, but I also love Alan Silvestri's score for The Abyss. Come back onto The Abyss now. I love his score for The Abyss. And to be honest, I did think it was James Horner when I was listening to it, but then at the end it came up in the credits, music composed and conducted by Alan Silvestri. And I was like, actually, that makes sense. Because I listened to the score again, I think on Spotify a couple of hours after, I was like, that bit sounds a bit like his score for the first Predator movie, and even a bit of his score for Predator 2 as well. But still, it's a great piece, it's a great score within itself. And yeah, if you haven't watched The Abyss, check it out, because it's a cracking movie. Honestly, yeah, it was remarkable what I saw. I was kind of blown away by how good it was, and how well pardon me there, how well it held up, yeah. It was just, yeah, it was really, really good, and I didn't expect it to be. But then, 2 years later, after he made The Abyss, James Cameron returned to a franchise he was already familiar with. And that was, of course, the Terminator franchise, as James Cameron made another one of what is arguably one of the best sequels of all time in T2 Judgment Day, aka Terminator 2. And again, although I don't love Terminator 2, I do think it is much, much, much better than the first Terminator movie. But partly because I love the fact that the Terminator is a good guy in the second film. And I love his relationship with John Connor as well. It's like fatherly relationship, which works really well. Also, Sarah Connor is more of a badass in the second Terminator film as well. I think the character is far more complex and interesting. And I think Linda Hamilton plays her fantastically. And also, by the way, a little piece of, I don't know how interesting it'll be, but a little fact here. Yeah, Linda Hamilton, who does play Sarah Connor in the first Terminator film, has actually returned for the latest one, married James Cameron after they worked together on T2. So there you go there, a little romance. Although they got divorced a couple of years later, so it wasn't a long marriage, but still, nonetheless, a little interesting fact for the viewers and the listeners there. But still, nonetheless, T2 is a great movie, and I love the action in the film. I love the car chase, or the truck chase, should I say, with the Terminator bike when he's trying to get John Connor. And I think that, yeah, you can really tell with T2 that James Cameron has become more experienced as a director. I'd not say the Aliens or the first Terminator, or that they basically badly directed, that's what I'm saying whatsoever. I think all of these films are really well directed. But you can tell with T2 that he's, you know, doing things on bigger budgets and having a more, maybe more fun doing the film and like just, you know, trying different ideas. Like kind of like he did with Aliens. I don't think he did that too much with The Abyss because that was just hell to make within itself. But still, nonetheless, T2 I think is a lot of fun. I've got to admit, I don't love the Terminator films simply because of the scores. I don't think the musical scores for the Terminator films are particularly brilliant. But at the same time, though, I do think that T2 is one of the best sequels ever made. I just think, you know, for me personally, it's not one of my favourite sequels ever made. But if I was to put it in the same boat as like Godfather 2, Aliens, and Empire Strikes Back, the boat would like consist of those three films at the front. That'd be the front of the boat, and then the back of the boat, quite far at the back of the boat, would be T2. I do like T2 quite a lot. I just don't consider it on the same par as Aliens, Godfather Part 2, and, you know, Empire, which I already mentioned. But still, T2 Judgment Day is a really good movie, and yeah, watching it again, I couldn't believe how much fun I was having with it. But then 2 years after T2, James Cameron made what is, in my opinion, his worst movie. But I should say quotation marks there for worst, because I still think it's a lot of fun. And that is with True Lies, which came out in 1994. Now, this movie stars Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is, you know, once again reuniting with, after making the Terminator films with, and also it stars Jamie Lee Curtis of Halloween fame. And by the way, you know, Jamie Lee Curtis is so much fun in True Lies, and I love the fact that, you know, she did that movie as well, because she feels like she's having a lot more fun in True Lies than she does with the Halloween movies. Like in Halloween movies, which she's in, because she's not in all of them, but in the Halloween movies which she's in, which I've seen, I haven't seen the latest two, but she always seems like she has to act scared. That's literally, I mean, that's the role of her character. She's the final girl in those films. But, you know, she always just acts in a certain way. And then in True Lies, I feel like I have a lot of fun. And, like, I watched True Lies, and I think a couple of days after, I watched H20, Halloween 20 Years Later, which came out in 1998. And, you know, it's called H20, which is such a weird name. Like, every time I like to call it H2O. You know, H2O, Halloween 20 Years Later. That's what I like to call it, because it's such a weird movie. It feels like a Halloween spoof. And like Jamie Lee Curtis, and her mother's in that film, by the way. Janet Leigh is also, you know, played the main female character in Psycho, another staple horror movie. But yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis is in that movie, and with the exception of her mother, Janet Leigh, who's also good in that film, but not in it that much. Jamie Lee Curtis is the best part of H20, aka H2O, Halloween 20 Years Later. She's the best part of that film, because it feels like everyone else thinks that they're acting in a Halloween spoof or a Halloween parody, while it feels like she's actually acting in a Halloween movie. She's scared of Michael Myers. Even so, Michael Myers in H20, aka H2O, as I like to call it, is just a guy in a mask. It's just a guy in a mask, doesn't like he's been through hell whatsoever, and yet he's completely inevitable and actually looks like a 20-year-old kid. Even so, you've got that going on in H20. She's still good in it though. She's still good in H2O, as I like to call it. And, you know, she did H2O, you know, Halloween 20 years later, 4 years after she did True Lies, which I was wanting to talk about. So, I watched H20, or as I like to call it H2O, a couple of days ago, and I just couldn't believe how naff it was. Especially it's meant to be her final Halloween film, I think. And then, look, she's still making them nowadays. But anyway, yeah, she's great in True Lies. And True Lies is a lot of fun. I don't think it's the best James Cameron film, but, you know, it's got some great moments in there, like seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger ride a horse through a casino. It was oddly actually quite funny. I didn't expect to find it that funny. I was laughing my head off when that was happening in the movie. And also it's got some great action sequences, like there's a sequence when, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger is trying to get Jamie Lee Curtis back after on the motorway, and like she's on top of a car and he's holding on to her for dear life. And again, I'm explaining the scene badly, but that's a lot of fun as well. And there's a great chemistry between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis in the film. Like I said before, it feels in the movie like she's having a lot of fun. Unlike Arnold Schwarzenegger in that film, he's very different than he is in the Terminator movies as well, which I really like. The fact that he wasn't just playing the same character, the fact that, you know, James Cameron came to him with True Lies and said, I want to play a character which is a bit more loose, a bit more laid back. He's a father, he's a husband, but at the same time, though, he's a bit of a jealous husband, if you will, and he's a bit of a spy. Not to go much detail there, but yeah, I love the fact that he plays a bit more of a different character, and it doesn't just act robotic again like he does in the Terminator films. He plays somewhat different. And I think, you know, it's probably the most fun Arnold Schwarzenegger performance as well. It's just a fun movie. It's not anything particularly special, and I do think it goes on for a bit too long. It's a baggy movie. The second film you can easily cut out. You know, the last 20 minutes just feel a bit like a footnote. It just kind of feels like, oh, we're doing this. Why? Because we kind of have to. Because we have to round off the film this way. We have to kill the antagonist because you almost forgot he was in this movie. There's parts like that in True Lies, but at the same time, though, it's fun. Like I've already said, it's a fun movie. It was enjoyable to watch. And even so, it's the quote unquote worst James Cameron movie I've ever seen. I do still think that's saying something because it's not a bad movie whatsoever. In fact, it was actually about fun, like I've already said about 5 times in this podcast already. But anyway, after James Cameron made arguably his worst movie, he then went on to arguably make his best movie in Titanic in 1997. Now, I know nowadays it's popular to hate on Titanic, but guess what? If you hate it, that's fair enough. It's all subjective. But I just don't get it. I don't get the hate. I love Titanic to pieces. Honestly, Titanic is one of the movies I'll be on TV and I think I'll watch about 5 minutes of it, that'll be it. I end up watching about half an hour to an hour of it. Like, I remember a couple of months ago, it was on Film 4, if in the UK and what that is. I was watching it on Film 4, and I was like, oh, I should watch 5 minutes of it. And I was about half an hour later, like, I'm still watching it, and I should be doing something else. Honestly, Titanic is such an amazing piece of cinema. And, like, the fact that everyone thought it was going to bomb because it went over schedule, it went over budget, there's all these big things like saying Titanic's going to be the worst movie of the year when it came out in 1997. Then guess what? Yes, it did do quite badly in its opening weekend, but it made its money back over time because word of mouth, positive word of mouth, made people go and see it, and it became one of the highest grossing films of all time. It became one of the highest grossing films of all time. I think it's still in the top 10. It might have been overtaken by one of the Fast and Furious movies or one of the Avengers films. But bear in mind, the Fast and Furious films and the Avengers films came out in the 2010s. You know, they come out in a very different movie climate than Titanic was. Titanic came out in 1997. And, you know, people's perceptions of cinema were very different back then. And the fact is, Titanic made all that money, won 11 Oscars as well at the Academy Awards that year. Pardon me, that, you know, it did this spectacular, you know, it had this spectacular success, which is just so amazing, and it deserved it as well. Honestly, Titanic is just, God, I love that movie. I really do. I think it's objectively James Cameron's best film. I think subjectively my favourite James Cameron film is Aliens, because I have so much fun with it. But objectively, I think his best film is Titanic. And it's got such an amazing James Horner score as well. I forgot he did the score for True Lies, actually. That might have been Alan Silvestri. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember the score for True Lies. I didn't mention it, by the way. I just remember now I didn't mention the score for True Lies. I can't remember who did it. Maybe it didn't have a memorable score. But anyway, yes, back to Titanic. Sorry, little sidetrack there. But anyway, yeah. The thing is with James Horner's score for Titanic, it makes you feel so much emotion as well, and there's a sense of excitement when you see everyone getting onto the Titanic at the start. It's fantastic score in the background, and then the way the score develops throughout the film, and the fact that James Horner won an Academy Award for his score for Titanic as well, it's just amazing. Like when the movie came out, they only released I think it was like a 10 CD soundtrack for the soundtrack of the film, and then people clamouring that they release a 2 CD soundtrack. People wanted to hear the unreleased tracks from the movie, and I just love that about it. That was quite a lot of John Williams scores as well, by the way. But Leonardo DiCaprio is brilliant in Titanic. So is Kate Winslet, and oh god, such a good film. When you watch the boat, going down at the end as well, when you watch the Titanic sinking, and even though you know what's going to happen, James Cameron still makes it such an emotional ride to watch, and it's one of those movies where you shouldn't care as much as you do. You really shouldn't. But because of the main two characters, and because of the way Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio play those two characters, was it Jack and Rose? I was trying to remember the character's names. Jack and Rose, that's it. Because of the way those two characters are portrayed for the film, you do feel emotion, and you are caught along with the moving side of the movie, and I just love that about it. And also, my favourite sequence in Titanic, and I know I'm on about Titanic a bit, but my favourite sequence from Titanic, is when you see the quartet. It's a montage where you see the quartet, playing that piece of music, and you see everyone getting ready to go under the water. You see that Titanic sinking, and people are getting ready to die. And it's an emotional scene. Just think about it now, you got that piece of music playing in the background, which I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it's that piece of music, bum, 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 bum. I'm getting sad thinking about it now. Just that scene with that piece of music playing in the background, and oh god, you saw the people about to die. It's heartbreaking, but it's also done so well. And I think objectively that is James Cameron's best film. I don't think it's my favourite James Cameron film, like I said before, but it's probably my second favourite James Cameron film, because yeah, it's just, god, it's so amazing. And if you dislike it, fair enough, but you've got to admit at the same time that it's such an incredible piece, it's such an incredible feat of filmmaking. It really is. And then, 12 years after Titanic, though, James Cameron went on to make his latest movie in the first Avatar film, which I actually saw at the cinema a couple of days ago now. That's half an hour into the podcast. I finally got what the podcast was meant to be about. I ramble on way too much, but still, Avatar, that's what I'm meant to be talking about in this podcast. That's the main meat of the podcast. Don't know how much I'm going to talk about it now, because I've been rambling on about all the other movies a bit too much, but still, the first Avatar I saw, it was kind of watching it for the first time. It's kind of like I was watching it for the first time when I was watching it on Thursday in the cinema, because, I had seen Avatar before when I was a much younger age, but, when I was watching it before, I don't know, I thought it was okay. I remember quite enjoying the action sequences when I was a kid. I remember my brothers being huge fans of the film, so I did see it quite a few times. But I barely remembered anything about it when I saw it on Thursday. I remembered Sam Worthington's character, Jake Scully. I remember his relationship with Zoe Dan as Avatar. I remembered the villain of the film, the Colonel. I remembered the big battle. I remembered the big bird that Jake Scully's Avatar flies. I remembered certain parts of the film, like Sigourney Weaver's character as well, and the fact that Sigourney Weaver's reuniting with James Cameron from Aliens there was pretty cool. I remember parts of the film when I watched it as a kid, but I didn't remember a lot of it. And so when I went to go and rewatch it again in the cinema, it was like watching a different film. And I made an effort watching it at the cinema as well, because, You know, the film, I think, got re-released in cinemas, I think the same week that Smile came out, the horror movie, which I've been on this channel. But I chose to watch Smile instead because it was a new movie, and also Lewis was busy, and I wanted to take him to cinema to see it, because he's also a fan of James Cameron with Aliens, Titanic, and the Terminator movies. So I wanted to take him to the cinema to go and see it as well. And we were both quite busy, so I wanted to go and Smile, which, by the way, Smile's a really fun film. It's kind of poppy, enjoyable, you know, modern day horror movie, which, you know, is not bad for what it is. But the thing is, though, I wanted to watch Avatar on the big screen, so every chance I got, I looked to the show times, and then the show times for the Avatar re-release in my local multiplex really bad, so I had to go to another cinema to watch it. I had to go to the cinema about an hour away, and I had to pay money, which I don't usually do when I go to the cinema because I have an OD Limitless card, which means I'm going to swipe that in and go into the cinema for free, well, technically for free, but also I have to pay like 20 quid a month to do that OD Limitless thing, but still, nevertheless, you get the point. I had to go to a different cinema to go and see it, and I didn't see the movie in 3D. I know Avatar is kind of known for its 3D, you know, identity. It's kind of known for the fact that it was released in 3D when it initially came out. And I'm pretty sure when it got re-released, it was in 3D mostly. Like, I know in my local multiplex where there was barely any showings of the film, annoyingly, they were showing it in 3D. And I also know that the cinema I went to go and see were also showing it in 3D, but this showing I went to was in 2D, which was a bit weird, because I was watching the movie thinking, okay, this would be much better in 3D. There's a couple more like that, which I'll go on to when I talk about my criticisms of the movie in a couple of minutes. But when I went to go watch it, going back on Spot with Naked, when I went to go watch it in the cinema, I really didn't know what to expect. I remembered, like, moments from the film. But then, about an hour into the movie, or less than that, to be honest, I don't know why I chose an hour, more like half an hour into the film, I was like, okay, I'm into this now. I'm immersed into this world, and I just, pardon me, apologies, but still, I was immersed into the world, and I went along with it. I was enchanted by Avatar. I don't think it's James Cameron's best film, and I don't love it as some other people do, but I do think it's got a lot of great moments in there, and I think visually, what that film managed to do is really outstanding. It's kind of amazing. Like, I'm always a fan of motion capture technology and motion capture, you know, visual effects in movies, whether it's like Gollum in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, or, you know, Andy Serkis' other characters in other movies like Caesar and the latest Planet of the Apes films, Snoke in the Star Wars sequels, or even in that Warcraft film, they used motion capture technology then, or even in Avatar, like James Cameron did, uses motion capture technology to capture the movement of the people and then put them like into the Avatar, you know, world. So what you actually have is, you know, the people playing these avatars in real life, and explain it awfully, but basically they're in these motion capture technology suits. Kind of like Mark Ruffalo with the Hulk, actually, now that I think about it. A little Marvel link there, which I'm not too proud of actually said that, but still, nonetheless, you get the point I'm making, you know. Marvel does it quite a lot nowadays, but basically, they get these motion capture suits, and then they do all the movements, all the actors, and then they're projected onto the avatars. So what you have is this quite fluid and human-like movement on the avatars, which is really impressive. And also it means that the avatars in Avatar look like the actors who playing them. Like the avatar which Zoe Saldana plays looks like Zoe Saldana. Same with the one who Sigourney Weaver plays, and the one who Sam Worthington plays, and so on and so on and so on. And that, I think, adds some more connection to the Avatar characters in the film, which I really like. And I get really impressed by motion capture technology, especially nowadays when you can, you know, easily just CGI a character in there, or just CGI something in there, like Marvel do all the time. I'm going to knock on Marvel again, because, yeah. I know people like Marvel, personally I'm not a fan, but still, that's never here or there. You know, the point I'm making, I got really impressed by motion capture technology. I was impressed with it in Lord of the Rings films, impressed with it in the Planet of the Apes movies, Star Wars sequels, and I'm also impressed with it quite a lot in the Avatar films, because, in the first Avatar movie, because it's much more difficult to do, and I feel for the actors, that must be quite a headache-inducing experience, you know, not acting against anything real, and I've seen some behind the scenes on Avatar and thinking, how do you just do that? How do you get your head around it? It must be a lot of imagination, a lot of just trusting James Cameron's vision. It seems very tiring and taxing and things like that. But I do think the end result, the destination that they get to with that motion capture technology is just outstanding. I think it's remarkable. And so I'm always impressed with that sort of filmmaking and that sort of visual style of filmmaking, if you will, the visual effects style of filmmaking, which really blows me away. And the fact that they're using the same sort of technology, the same sort of motion capture technology underwater for the Avatar sequel, I think makes that bit more exciting to watch, in my opinion. Yeah, and I really love that about it. Also, James Horner's score, mentioned him this time. I mentioned him with Titanic as well, but I forgot to mention him with Aliens. I went back to mention him with Aliens anyway, but you get the point I'm making. My head is all over the place today, sorry, if I'm not making any sense in this podcast. Been a very long day, and I'm not feeling well whatsoever. But, get back onto the point I was making. James Horner's score for Avatar, it's kind of like a character in the movie in itself. It's kind of like the score, it's kind of like John Williams' score for Jaws. The score for Jaws is quite literally a shark in itself. The main theme for Jaws, bum 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 bum, that is literally, the shark in Jaws. And it's the same with Hans Zimmer's score for Christopher Nolan's Inception. That if you take the Hans Zimmer score out of Inception, you've got a completely different film, which is really boring, I'm not going to lie. But when you put the Hans Zimmer score in there, it makes it so much more compelling and captivating and really pulls you in and just makes it that bit emotional towards the end of the piece of music time. And that's what James Horner's score does with Titanic, with Avatar, sorry. That's what he scores with Avatar. It just immerses you into the world, and also it makes the Avatar, it makes the world of Avatar, Pandora, that's what it's called, Pandora, the world of Avatar, feel more realistic. It grounds the verisimilitude of that world far more, and it just, oh god, I love the score so much. And it's such a shame that James Horner has now passed away, sadly, because I would have loved to hear his score. I would have loved to hear his score, sorry, for, I would have loved to hear his score, yeah, I would have loved to have heard his score for Avatar 2. But unfortunately we won't get that. Now we've got a new person coming in to compose the music for Avatar 2, which is great. I hope that composer does a great job, but it's someone I've never heard of before, hence why I don't actually remember the person who's coded to do it. But you get the point I'm making, it's a bit of a shame. It's actually a big shame that James Horner is not here anymore, because I just would have loved to hear his score for Avatar 2 so much. And I do say that we'll hear some of James Horner's themes in there, but the fact that it won't be James Horner, I do feel is a bit of a knock, because his score for Avatar is just, it's so integral to that movie. And so, yeah, fingers crossed the score for Avatar 2 is great, but James Horner's score for Avatar is something else. And it's a real shame that he's not here anymore. But yeah, look, talking about Avatar a bit more, I do have some criticism on the film though. Even though I'm really impressed by it, the way it was made, and I do think it's a great movie, it is long and you do feel the length of the film. There are some baggy sections, and there are some sections you could easily shave off in terms of time to cut 2 minutes out of that scene and things like that. And there's some clunky lines of dialogue as well. You don't have any classic lines of dialogue like you do from Aliens. Like in Aliens, I forgot the guy's name now who plays him, but in Aliens, just after they've encountered the aliens for the first time, the Xenomorph aliens, you have that one character going, "Game over, man, game over," and it's such a classic line of dialogue. And you don't have any lines of dialogue like that in this movie, though, unfortunately, which is a bit of a shame because, yeah, I don't think that's on my head. Is there any classic lines of dialogue? No, I can't think of any in the movie. Which, yeah, it just kind of tells you how clunky the dialogue is. I don't think the dialogue is particularly well written in the film. It's just, yeah, it's okay. And also, you can tell the film is made for 3D, which is great if you're watching in 3D. Good for you. I didn't. I watched it in 2D. So I was watching it kind of going, oh, yeah, I can tell this would be made for 3D, but it's a bit jarring to watch and a bit hard just to get used to, because it feels like it's made for 3D. Like the first time you see Jake Sully going to Pandora as an avatar, I was watching it going, okay, the frame rate here is a bit weird. I can tell this scene is made for 3D, but it's just not working for me as much as I'd like it to. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think I'll have that problem with Avatar 2, because I do think I'll end up seeing that film in 3D. It's being made for 3D again. But, yeah. I mean, 3D is a bit weird in my opinion. Like, I don't have anything against 3D. I'm not one of these people who can really detest it or anything like that. But the thing is with 3D for me is that I've had some good experiences with it, I've had some bad experiences with it. You know, I had some good experiences when I went to go watch the Hobbit movies, the first two Hobbit movies I saw in 3D, and I really enjoyed watching them in 3D, and I think I remember seeing Pirates of the Caribbean 4, was it Pirates of the Caribbean and Strangest Ties in 3D as well. I didn't mind that, but I also remember going and watching Transformers 3, don't even know what it's called, in the cinema in 3D, and literally feeling like I was going to have a migraine by the end. Like, literally feeling like half my head was going to be just going to fall off because it's such a headache by the end of the movie watching in 3D. Granted, that might not be because of watching in 3D, that might be because of Transformers 3, but still, nonetheless. Yeah, I've had some good experiences with 3D, and I've had some bad experiences as well. And there's another one, which I'm getting, but yeah, I've had some good experiences with 3D and some bad experiences. So I didn't really want to go and watch it in 3D, I'm not going to lie. I wanted to watch it in 2D like I'd seen Avatar before. When I watched Avatar in the past, I'd seen it in 2D on like my DVD player and whatnot. And then I just kind of watched the movie without thinking, yeah, there are parts of this which I can feel are made for 3D, and I do feel as a fault, especially if you're watching this on 2D, which I'm going to be honest, the majority of audiences will be doing nowadays. 3D is becoming kind of obsolete. I mean, I don't know if it's going to exist much longer, so yeah. Oh, it's just a bit of a... It wasn't a huge issue. It just took me about half an hour to get into because the film did feel like it was made for 3D, and so the frame was a bit different than I was expecting. I was a bit jarring to watch, and there's a couple of shots like, yep, that shot was designed for 3D. Kind of like, I remember this is Musketeers film with Matthew McFadden and Orlando Bloom in, and I remember watching that movie on my TV downstairs and seeing certain scenes going, okay, that seems clearly made for 3D, and it's kind of annoying that I'm not watching it in 3D because it doesn't have the same effect. That's the point I'm trying to make there. It doesn't have the same effect. But still, nonetheless, you know, didn't really bother me though, because the amazing visuals of the film, and the way it immersed into the world. The fact that you're not immersed into the world of Pandora just through the musical score. Like, whenever I watch the Hobbit or Lord of the Rings films, the reason I get immersed into the world of Middle-earth is because of the Howard Shore musical score, which is amazing in those movies. I'm not dissing that in any way. Every time I hear concerning Hobbits, the Hobbit theme from the Lord of the Rings movies, I'm literally go, okay, I'm back in Middle-earth now. I love that about those movies, though. But also the fact that it's different in this film. You're not immersed into the world of Pandora, the Avatar world, because of the musical score. I'm not saying the musical score is bad, I've already spoken a lot about it, but you're immersed into the world of Pandora, the Avatar world, because of the visuals, because of the way James Cameron staged and directs everything. It's brilliant, and I love that about it, and I think Avatar is a good movie. I don't think it's a good movie. I think it's a great movie. I just don't think it's an amazing film. Unlike Lewis, though. Lewis, who I watched it with, did think it was an amazing film. In fact, he said one of his favourite films of all time now, and I understand why some people would say that. I also understand the other, side of the spectrum, the other end of the spectrum. I understand why some people would hate Avatar. Much like Titanic, it's become popular to hate an Avatar nowadays, which I don't fully understand. It's an incredibly well-made film. Sure, if you have any valid criticism of it, that's completely fine. If you don't like the movie, it's all subjective. I'm not saying that. But people who just dislike Avatar for the sake of disliking Avatar, I don't get that. But anyway, yeah. Lewis absolutely loved it to pieces. And if he was here right now, I dare say he would be praising it to pieces, like going about all the things he loved from, moment to moment to moment to moment. In fact, when we finished the movie, he turned to me and went, I love that so much, can we watch it again? And I was like, unfortunately not, we have to go and do something else. In fact, I went to go and have tea at Pizza. But you get the point I'm making. He loved that movie so much. And although I did still think it was a great movie. And if I was going to give it a rating out of 10, I'd probably say, this is just a rating I'm pulling off the top of my head, don't even have to note it down, but I'd probably say that it would be a 8.5 out of 10. It's a great film, just not, would I say it was an 8.5 out of 10 actually? Probably more aligned with an 8.3 out of 10, something like that. Again, I'm just coming up with that rating off the top of my head, no planning on that rate whatsoever, but you get the point I'm making. I like Avatar quite a bit, I think it's great, I just don't love it. Although, I am very excited for Avatar 2, aka Avatar The Way of Water, which is coming out this Christmas. Pardon me there. And one of the reasons I'm really excited for this Avatar sequel is the fact that we had a special look at one of the scenes from Avatar 2 when we saw Avatar in the cinema. Like, halfway through the credits said, and now a special look at Avatar The Way of Water. And it had this scene, which involved none of the characters from the first film, by the way, although a lot of them returning, which is great. But it just involved all these young Avatar children swimming underwater. And it was a really cool scene, actually. The visuals were done fantastically, and I think that actually looked, you know, the visuals looked better than they did in 2009. And one thing I didn't mention about Avatar, by the way, about the first Avatar, were how well the visuals still held up. I was taken aback by how well the visuals still looked when I was watching it in the cinema, even though the film was made in 2009. Like, you compare it to, you know, visual effects and CGI in big blockbusters nowadays, like, you know, Thor: Love and Thunder, and you look how bad the CGI is in that movie. Honestly, it's laughable. And you look how good the visual effects are in Avatar, which was made how many years before Thor: Love and Thunder? And it's just like comparing both of them, which were probably made around the same budget. I mean, actually, dare say Avatar was made a much bigger budget, but still, nonetheless, it's still big blockbusters, which are both owned, you know, owned by the same company now, Disney. And you just kind of compare them both and go, what happened with Thor: Love and Thunder? Because, like, Avatar still looks so visually amazing, and yet Thor: Love and Thunder visually, in terms of CGI, looks laughable, like I said before. Then anyway, yeah, I think the visuals in the clip from Avatar 2 that we saw looked even better. And by the way, on the topic of the name of Avatar 2, Avatar: The Way of Water, it's such a naff name. It's so just meh. You know, I think the name could have been a bit better. Like, it could have been called Avatar: The Experience of Water, just something like that. The Way of Water makes it sound like it's going to be a cult film. It's like there's going to be someone going, oh, look how water works in this movie. Like, I don't care, you know, about how water works or anything like that. And it just sounds a bit meh. Which is a shame, though, because the first trailer I've seen for the movie, which got shown before Avatar actually started, which is a bit funny, by the way, because, like, the trailers were shown at the cinema, and the trailer for Avatar 2 came on, and of course, Lewis hadn't seen Avatar yet, and I turned to Lewis and went, this is a trailer for Avatar 2, by the way, and he went, oh, right. It's kind of like seeing the trailer for a sequel before you saw the original. It's just a bit weird, that. But still, nonetheless, the trailer, the first teaser trailer of the movie, looks visually again amazing, and you know, it looks like it looks different from the first one, which I really like, and it's a great teaser trailer. Granted, it's not a great, I wouldn't say it's a great trailer, it's a good teaser, because it kind of shows you, okay, Avatar's coming back, get excited. We haven't seen the official trailer for Avatar 2 yet, aka Avatar: The Way of Water, as I'm doing this podcast now. And I think that second trailer for Avatar 2 really needs to blow us away. Really needs to tell us what the story's going to be, give us some character interactions, because so far in that first trailer, all we got was Jake Sully going, all I know is one thing, something like that, you know, this family is my fortress. And it's a good line of dialogue, I'm not saying that. In fact, it's probably more memorable than any lines of dialogue in the first Avatar movie, but it didn't make me go, oh, Avatar, wow, Avatar 2. I'm gonna go and start this Christmas. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, Avatar 2 is one of my most excited, is one of my most anticipated movies for the rest of the year. But the trailer didn't make me, you know, fall head over the heels for the sequel. It didn't make me literally count down the days to. I want the second trailer to do that. I want the second trailer to come out and go. I want to watch the second trailer for Avatar 2 and go, oh yeah, I want to see this now. I want to see it as soon as possible. That's what I want. I want to count down the days this movie comes out. Like I was doing the Star Wars movies when they were coming out, you know, from 2015 to 2019. I want to have that sort of feeling. And I haven't got that from the first Avatar teaser, but I do still think it looks good. But the second Avatar teaser for Avatar 2 needs to be fantastic, at least. It needs to be incredible, at least, to be honest. It needs to make me go, okay, yes, Avatar, because it needs to bring in those audiences. Because, I mean, I don't think the film's going to bomb. I think people saying Avatar 2 is going to bomb are, quite frankly, dumb. But at the same time, no, you know, I do feel there's not that much buzz surrounding it at the moment. But I also feel that could change when a second trailer comes out and that second trailer is much better. But another thing I'm going to talk about with Avatar 2 is the fact that a lot of characters returning. This isn't a spoiler, by the way, because these characters have already been teased. Some of the actors who play these characters have actually been promoting the film already, like D23, the big Disney event, which happened a couple of weeks back, and stuff like that. You know, in fact, one of the actors I'm going to talk about, if you remember a promo image released of them from the new film. But slight spoilers here in case you didn't want to know, and if you didn't know already. Sigourney Weaver, whose character died in the first Avatar film, is apparently back. I don't know how it works, but she was at D23 promoting the movie, and also an image of her like new reborn Avatar has been released. Again, that's not a spoiler, they're releasing it as like promotional images, so that's kind of interesting. She's going to Weaver back again, reunite with James Cameron from the first Avatar and Aliens. Kind of nice that relationship was kind of so long. And also we have the guy who played the Colonel coming back. So the guy who played the main villain from the first Avatar is coming back as well, even though he died. We literally saw him get stabbed with a I think it was like a crossbow by Zoe Saldana's Avatar, which is quite interesting. Again, that's not a spoiler. The actor is at D23 promoting the movie, so he's coming back as well. I don't know how that's going to work. In fact, I can kind of see the Colonel coming back in like a Terminator way. Bear in mind, James Cameron directed the first two Terminator movies. Is directing this one as well. He's directing this, I'd say, that kind of made it sound like it's a Terminator film. No, James Cameron, who directed the first two Terminator movies, is directing Avatar 2. So I can kind of see him, like, the Colonel come back half robotic. I'm not saying that's a good idea, and I don't actually think it's going to happen. But I wouldn't put it past James Cameron. I honestly wouldn't. And also we have many of the same cast returning, many of the same cast like Sam Worthington's coming back as Jake Scully, Zoe Saldana's coming back as the main female Avatar. You've also got Giovanna Ribisi coming back. A lot of the same cast is coming back from the first film. And also some newcomers as well, like Amber Midthunder, who played the young Native American girl in Prey, who was terrific in that movie, by the way. She's going to be in there, apparently. Really excited to see her in another movie. And also Kate Winslet, who's reunited with James Cameron from Titanic, who played Rose in Titanic, is going to be in Avatar 2 as well. And I really like that. Like, Kate Winslet's been doing a lot of serious stuff over the past couple of years. Where it was in Mare of Easttown, which was amazing in. And also with Animite as well, which did with Saoirse Ronan. She's been doing a lot of serious, gritty dramas, which is fine. She's brilliant in them. But the fact that she's doing Avatar 2, it makes me laugh and it makes me smile, because it's kind of like she wants to do something fun. And apparently she broke the record for holding her breath underwater as well. She beat Tom Cruise for breaking the record. Like, Tom Cruise held the record for a long time for holding his breath underwater for something like 6 minutes. I think it was. I think it was actually 6 minutes. He held his breath underwater for 6 minutes whilst filming Mission Impossible 5, aka Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. I think that's the fifth one. And, you know, Kate Winslet actually broke that record with Avatar 2 because she held her breath underwater for 7 minutes and 10 seconds, I think it is. Or maybe 11 seconds, actually, or maybe 12 seconds. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. But it's something like that. She held her breath for over 7 minutes for this new Avatar movie. And I think that's amazing. And that was kind of leading me to my next point. My last point about Avatar 2, or one of my last points anyway, is that this new Avatar film is going to be set predominantly underwater. The film is called The Way of Water, and, you know, much like some of other previous James Cameron films, this one will be set underwater as well. Like, The Abyss was mostly set underwater. I think, you know, 95% of The Abyss is underwater, maybe even 98% of the film. There's like 2 scenes above water, but still, nonetheless, you know, you've got that scene in Aliens when the alien comes out of the water and takes Newt away. That's quite a famous scene in that movie. You got the opening of True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger swimming underwater to get to this, you know, posh palace that takes place underwater. Titanic, need I say more? And also, Avatar 2 is going to take place a lot underwater, apparently. They're using motion capture technology underwater, and apparently cameras have been designed for the film. James Cameron has actually invented cameras for Avatar 2. That's all really exciting in my opinion. Yeah, the fact is, Avatar 2 is going to take place underwater, which is pretty cool in my opinion. And yeah, James Cameron is diving back into water with Avatar 2. See what I did there? But still, nonetheless, you know, James Cameron's directed films underwater in the past, and, you know, he's done a really good job of that. And so I do think I'll do a good job here as well. And also, like I said before, there's going to be a lot of young kid avatars, or young child avatars in this movie as well, which could go either way. That could be quite cringeworthy. I'm not going to lie, sometimes when I watch kid actors in movies, I'm kind of like, yeah, you're not the best actor, or sometimes I see like a line of dialogue in the film, and I'm like, yeah, you usually wouldn't say that line of dialogue in real life. I don't believe you would. But James Cameron has worked with kids before on films like Aliens with New, with John Connor on T2, and also with the person who plays Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter in True Lies. And none of those kids in those movies are cringeworthy in my opinion. So I do think James Cameron can make it work. Also, by the way, Avatar 2, and this is something I just thought off the top of my head, Avatar 2, aka Avatar The Way of Water, is a sequel. Unless you forget, James Cameron has made two of the best sequels of all time, with Aliens and T2 Judgment Day. So I do think he is going to do a great job this film. Fingers crossed he will. And my last thing that I want to say is that, the film is one of my most anticipated movies of the rest of the year. In fact, it would have been one of my most anticipated movies of the whole year if you asked me January 2022, simply because it's a new James Cameron film. We haven't had a James Cameron film since 2009, the first Avatar. I want to see what he's been cooking up for so long. I want to see what he's been, frying up in his pan. I want to see what he's been doing. I want to see a new James Cameron film. He doesn't miss a beat. Don't bet against him. Honestly, people bet against him with Titanic. Look what happened with that movie. Won 11 Oscars and became one of the highest grossing films of all time. People bet against James Cameron, the first Avatar. That film became literally the highest grossing film of all time. It still is. Endgame overtook it for a little bit, but Avatar is still back in front. And Avatar's gone back in front now, and good news for Disney because it's still both owned by Disney. But still, nonetheless, don't bet against James Cameron. And honestly, I do think this could be one of the best sequels of all time again. It's James Cameron directing. He's directed two pretty fantastic sequels already, so fingers crossed he does now. Honestly, I can't wait for Avatar 2. I mean, I can't, to be honest. I haven't heard a trailer which blew me away, but at the same time, though, I want to see it. I just want to see it. I want to see what James Cameron's been working on. I'm the world's biggest Avatar fan, but I want to see Avatar 2. I want to see Avatar The Way of Water because I feel it's going to be something special. And that is it for the podcast for today. So thank you, as always, for listening, if you have been listening on Spotify. And also thank you for watching if you're watching on YouTube. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this channel, or subscribe to the podcast. Whatever you do, thank you for watching. And look forward to many more, both film and TVs and podcasts coming over the next couple of weeks and whatnot. And yes, I'm feeling quite tired now, so I'm going to round this off by saying, see you all guys again soon, but bye for now. Bye!